listen to me for 10 seconds. If 2025 broke you, it didn't ruin you. If you feel tired, disconnected, or numb, that's not failure. That's your nervous system asking for truth. And 2026, 2026 is not about becoming more, it's about coming home. I want to start here because rebuilding yourself doesn't begin with goals or habits or vision boards. It begins with a decision, so quiet, most people miss it. The decision to stop abandoning yourself. The decision to stop calling survival strength. The decision to tell the truth about what this last season actually cost you. Rebuilding is not a glow up, it's a reckoning. It's looking at who you became just to be accepted, to be safe, to be successful, and asking, is this still me? And if the answer hurts, good. Pain is information, it's not punishment. Here's the hard truth: you don't rebuild because you're weak. You rebuild because something inside you refuses to live numb. You rebuild because your soul is tired of pretending it's fine. You rebuild because courage isn't loud. It's choosing honesty when denial would be easier. In 2026, we are not chasing perfection. We are practicing alignment. We are choosing integrity over image. We are letting go of the idea that healing should be fast or pretty. This is where it starts. With one brave sentence: I'm ready to stop performing my life and start living it. That sentence, that's the foundation. Rebuilding yourself in 20 to 26 requires one brutal act of courage. You have to grieve the version of you that survived but no longer fits. This is where most people get stuck. They try to heal while dragging the old armor with them. The people-pleasing, the over-functioning, the I'm fine smile, you don't need those anymore. But letting them go feels like betrayal because that version kept you alive. So let me say this clearly: you are not dishonoring your past by outgrowing it. You are honoring it by no longer needing it. Growth feels like loss before it feels like freedom. You will miss who you were, even if that version was exhausted, anxious, and shrinking. Because familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar truth. But safety built on self-erasure is not safety. It's a slow disappearance. In 2026, rebuilding means allowing parts of you to burn without running back into the flames. It means saying, thank you for protecting me, and I release you. That is not weakness. That is reverence. Here's the uncomfortable truth: you cannot carry old identities into a new life. The weight will crush you. So you stop asking, who do I need to be loved? And you start asking, ooh, am I when I stop performing? Rebuilding doesn't happen all at once. It happens every time you choose discomfort over disconnection. Every time you let an outdated role die, instead of resuscitating it out of fear, let it burn, not in anger, but in gratitude. Because what rises next will finally be honest. Rebuilding yourself in 2026 demands radical honesty, the kind that leaves no place to hide, not from the world, from yourself. Because you cannot heal what you keep editing. This is the moment you stop romanticizing your pain and start listening to it. You stop calling burnout ambition. You stop calling anxiety drive. You stop calling loneliness independence. And you finally ask the question most people avoid their entire lives: what am I actually afraid to feel? Truth telling is not dramatic. It's devastatingly quiet. It sounds like admitting you stayed too long, that you tolerated less than you deserved, that you said yes when your body was screaming no. And here's the part no one tells you: the truth will cost you your excuses before it gives you your freedom. In 2026, rebuilding means you stop lying to protect relationships, jobs, and identities that are already costing you your peace. You stop negotiating with your intuition like it's optional, because your body keeps the receipts. It always has. Here's the paradox: honesty will break your heart before it heals it. You will mourn the time you lost, the boundaries you didn't set, the voice you swallowed to keep the peace. But grief is not regression. Grief is proof that something mattered. This is where courage is born, not in confidence, but in clarity. When you tell the truth without knowing how the story will end, when you say, this isn't working without a backup plan, when you choose alignment over approval, you don't rebuild by becoming fearless. You rebuild by becoming honest enough to move forward anyway. And once you see the truth, You can't unsee it. Rebuilding yourself in 2026 means you stop running from discomfort and start building the capacity to stay. Because the feelings you avoid don't disappear. They wait. And they show up later as numbness, anger, exhaustion, or disconnection. Most of us were taught to outrun pain. Stay busy, stay productive, stay strong. But strength that avoids feeling is not strength, it's armor. And armor gets heavy. So this year, rebuilding looks like learning how to sit in the quiet after the distraction ends, to feel disappointment without immediately turning it into self-blame, to feel sadness without rushing to fix it, to feel fear without letting it make your decisions. Here's the truth. No one glamorizes. Emotional maturity is the ability to stay present when everything in you wants to escape. When you stop numbing, you will feel more, not less. And that will scare you. But those emotions are not enemies. They are messengers. Anxiety is asking for safety. Anger is asking for boundaries. Grief is asking for acknowledgement. In 2026, rebuilding means you stop labeling emotions as good or bad and start asking what they need. You don't judge yourself for having them. You don't rush them out of the room. You let them speak. This is slow work. Uncomfortable work. Sacred work. Because when you finally allow yourself to feel without fixing, numbing, or explaining, something softens. You stop fighting yourself. And when you stop fighting yourself, you free up energy for becoming whole. This is not regression. This is resilience being rewired. Rebuilding yourself in 2026 means confronting one of the quietest wounds of all the places where you stopped trusting yourself. Maybe you ignored your gut too many times. Maybe you talked yourself out of leaving, speaking up, resting, or asking for more. And over time, that inner voice didn't disappear. It just got quieter, not because it was wrong, but because it learned you wouldn't listen. Self-trust isn't confidence. It's consistency. It's knowing that when something feels off, you don't gaslight yourself into staying comfortable. It's believing your own experience even when others minimize it. And rebuilding means repairing that relationship gently, patiently, without punishment. In 2026, you rebuild self-trust by keeping small promises to yourself. You rest when you're tired. You say no without over-explaining. You stop asking for permission to honor your limits. Every time you choose yourself in a small, unglamorous way, you send a powerful message inward, I've got you. Here's the hard part. Trusting yourself, again, means accepting that you will make mistakes. You will misjudge. You will choose wrong sometimes. But self-trust isn't about being right. It's about knowing you won't abandon yourself when things go wrong. You stop outsourcing your worth. You stop waiting for certainty. You stop needing consensus to move forward, because the most dangerous thing is not failure. It's betraying yourself to avoid discomfort. In 2026, rebuilding means this: you become someone you can rely on. And that changes everything. Rebuilding yourself in 2026 means understanding this truth at a cellular level. Boundaries are not walls. They are doors with locks. And you decide who gets a key. Most people think boundaries are about pushing others away. They're not. They're about stopping the slow bleed of resentment, exhaustion, and self-betrayal. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you teach people how to disappear you. So this year, rebuilding looks like disappointing others instead of abandoning yourself. It looks like tolerating the discomfort of being misunderstood instead of the pain of being depleted. And yes, it will feel cruel at first because you were taught that love equals sacrifice. But sacrifice without consent is not love, it's erosion. Here's the hard truth. People who benefited from your lack of boundaries will not celebrate your growth. They will call you cold, changed, difficult. Let them. Your healing is not a group decision. In 2026, boundaries sound like clarity. I don't have the capacity for this. That doesn't work for me. I need space. No apology, no justification, no performance. And here's what happens when you finally hold the line. Your nervous system exhales. Your body stops bracing. Your energy comes back online. Because peace is not found in pleasing. It's found in protecting. Rebuilding yourself means realizing that boundaries are not the thing that separate you from connection. They are the thing that make real connection possible. You are not here to be endlessly accessible. You are here to be whole. And wholeness requires limits. Rebuilding yourself in 2026 means you stop asking, will this keep me comfortable? And you start asking, will this keep me honest? Because comfort has a way of shrinking us quietly. It convinces us to stay silent, to stay small, to stay in places where we are tolerated, not celebrated. Comfort whispers, don't rock the boat. Courage says, the boat is already sinking. This is the year you stop confusing familiarity with safety. Just because something is known doesn't mean it's nourishing. Just because you've survived it, it doesn't mean you should keep living inside it. Courage is not bravado. It's not loud. It doesn't come with confidence guarantees. Courage feels like a shaky voice telling the truth. It feels like taking the next step without seeing the whole staircase. It feels like choosing growth even when it costs you approval. In 2026, rebuilding means you let yourself be seen, not perfectly, but authentically. You risk being misunderstood instead of remaining invisible. You stop editing yourself to fit rooms you've already outgrown. Here's the paradox: courage doesn't remove fear. It walks with it. You don't wait until you're ready. You move because staying still hurts more. And yes, there will be moments you wish you could go back to who you were, quieter, easier, less demanding. But that version of you is surviving. This version is living. Rebuilding yourself means choosing the brave option again and again, not because it's safe, but because it's true. And truth always leads you home. Rebuilding yourself in 2026 means you dismantle one of the most dangerous lies you were ever taught. That your worth is something you earn. You were conditioned to believe you are valuable when you are productive, impressive, useful, or agreeable. And slowly, without realizing it, you tied your sense of worth to output, to achievement, to how much you could carry without collapsing. So let me say this clearly: your worth was never meant to be measured by exhaustion. In 2026, rebuilding looks like separating who you are from what you do. It means recognizing that rest is not laziness and needing help is not failure. It means understanding that you don't have to prove your pain to deserve care. Here's what happens when worth is conditional: you overgive, overperform, and overextend, hoping someone will finally say, you're enough. But the truth is, no amount of external validation can heal an internal question mark. Rebuilding means you stop asking, am I doing enough? And you start asking, am I honoring myself? Your worth does not rise when you succeed. It does not fall when you fail. It is not negotiable. When you anchor your life in inherent worth, something shifts. You choose differently. You walk away sooner. You stop chasing what costs you your dignity. You stop shrinking to be chosen. In 2026, rebuilding yourself means this radical act. You decide you are already enough, and you build from there, not toward it. And once you stop trying to earn your worth, you finally have the energy to live it. Rebuilding yourself in 2026 is not just internal work, it's structural. Emotional insight without life redesign will always pull you back into the same pain. You don't heal and then return to environments that broke you. You build a life that can actually support the person you're becoming. That means looking honestly at your days, your relationships, your pace, your digital noise, your expectations, and asking one brave question: does my life reflect my values or my wounds? In 2026, rebuilding means you stop glorifying busy. You create margins. White space, breathing room, because a life with no space will eventually collapse on itself. Rest becomes a practice, not a reward. It also means choosing people who can sit with your truth, not just your success. People who don't rush you out of your feelings. People who don't benefit from your silence. Because healing cannot happen in relationships where you have to perform. Rebuilding means designing rituals that ground you. Mornings that don't start with panic. Evenings that don't end in numbness. It means putting systems in place that protect your energy instead of draining it. Here's the truth: healing doesn't survive in chaos. It needs structure, safety, predictability, not rigidity, but care. You are not fragile, but you are human. And a human needs a life that can hold them when things get hard, not one that demands they be unbreakable. Rebuilding yourself in 2026 is not about becoming fearless, flawless, or finished. It's about becoming real, and real is resilient. You will still have hard days. You will still doubt yourself. You will still feel fear rise in your chest when you choose differently than before. Healing does not erase your humanity. It deepens it. But here's what will change. You won't abandon yourself when things get uncomfortable. You won't numb what needs to be felt. You won't stay where your spirit shrinks just to keep the peace. Rebuilding means you stop measuring progress by how good it looks and start measuring it by how honest it feels. You notice the quiet victories, the pause before reacting, the boundary held without guilt, the truth spoken without apology. In 2026, strength will look softer than you expected. It will look like rest, like asking for help, like walking away sooner, like choosing yourself without drama. And one day, not suddenly, not loudly, you'll realize something profound. You are no longer fighting yourself. You are no longer performing your life. You are no longer waiting to become someone else. This is the work, not fixing yourself, but reclaiming yourself. So step into this year with courage that is quiet, values that are lived, and a heart that is willing to stay open even when it trembles. You don't need to become new. You need to become whole. And that is how you rebuild yourself in 2026.